Good afternoon, happy stampers, and welcome to my happy stamping studio. This is Judy Anderson with judystamps.com, and we are doing another card this week using the Blessed Beginning stamp set. If you remember last week, we did some watercoloring on some basic white, and we created a card. I am using the same exact measurements this week, a different pattern, and we're changing it up to be a wedding card instead. And I have taken away the basic white cardstock and exchanged that for a watercolor paper to show you guys the difference in the watercoloring with the watercolor paper versus the basic white. So I've got my supplies here. We're also doing an extra step when we're using the StazOn. You know, I was thinking last week after I got off and thought, you know what? I could use an old trick that we use with stamping. So I think this is going to help save your stamps a little bit with your StazOn ink. So here are our papers. This is the paper that I've chosen this week. I think it is another gorgeous paper from here. You guys, you know, our retirement list is going to be coming out really quick here. Grab up some of those papers, our ink colors that are going out. Don't forget those rate inkers. You know, those ink pads dry up, you need those rate inkers, and they won't be available after they retire. So we've got our watercolor paper. I'm adding our piercing mat as a cushion underneath to give us a little bit of cushion. So what we're going to do is we're going to stamp our watercolor paper, and I am going to use the Fresh Freesia for our sentiment. Now last week I used two different ink colors to stamp our verse. This week we're just going to use the one, so we're going to ink that up by tapping it on our ink pad, and we're going to put this up into the upper left hand corner. Now if you remember last week we made a vertical card, sorry. This week we're making a horizontal card. Oops. Well, I pressed too hard. Horizontal card with the same pieces. I wanted to show you how versatile it is and how you can get a different look just by changing up the position of your papers. Okay, we're going to clean that off real quick. Okay, now we are going to stamp our church next. And if you remember last week, I told you to place your stamp upside down like this and ink it up. We are going to ink it with our Versamark first. Okay, the Versamark kind of gives a protective coat on your stamp. And I think that this is going to help you with your StazOn ink not having as much of a reaction. Now, you do need to ink it up really good because it's going to be a little bit lighter, but that's okay with me. And we want to use the StazOn because we're going to be watercoloring, and this is a permanent ink. Okay, we are going to put this as close to that sentiment as possible. And just press and lift. And look at that. It doesn't stick as much. It still sticks a little bit. You saw that. But that's going to help protect your stamp. Let me clean this off. It is beginning to get stained because I have been using this stamp so much, you guys. I feel that this church is just one of those timeless stamps that you're going to find using over and over again in different cards and different sentiments. You can use sentiments from other stamps too. Okay, so we've got that. Now, I do want to add this tree here. So we're going to add this, and you're going to notice it's going off the edge. That's a-okay, you guys. So once again, we're going to open up our ink pads. We're going to ink up our stamp with the Versamark first. Then we're going to go in and ink it up with our StazOn. And we want to make sure we move around that pad and get good coverage on that stamp. And let's just put that right over here on the side. Okay, I'm going to lift that up. And you're going to notice it's like a grayish color instead of that vivid black, which I love when watercoloring. I don't always like a vivid black per se. I like a grayish color. Now, to balance this out, we're going to grab, and I need to grab it off the sheet. We're going to grab that little bush, and we're going to ink it up. Now, this time I don't have to do it pad to stamp. I can do the stamp to the pad. And we are just going to put that right over here. Okay, down and lift. And see how much easier that is, you guys? Remember last week I was kind of fighting a little bit with it with the paper, but once again, the watercolor paper is different than the basic white. Okay, so let's grab our ink colors. Now we can take our pad away. We have the Fresh Freesia, the Shy Shamrock. We've got our colors in our palette or our lids. I need to squeeze a little bit of this. And then we have our Bubble Bath. These are colors that are in the paper. Okay, so we are going to start watercoloring. Got our watercolor painter here and just adding a little bit of water. And once again, I'm starting with the lightest color. Now I am going to create a little bit of a stained glass. I'm going to wash over it completely with the Bubble Bath, those windows. Okay, now I'm going to go into the Fresh Freesia, and I'm just going to do some little dots. Because there's water on there, they're probably going to move out a little bit. They're going to kind of create shadows rather than a stained glass look. Now, I want to take my Palmy Clover, no, Shy Shamrock, sorry. That was a different color. And I'm going to pick up only a little bit of that color. Okay, this is a real vivid color. So this is one of those colors that you want to start light and go dark. Now see how I can move that color more on my paper than I did last week? I don't need as much color and I can move it around. Okay, now I'm going to create some shadows. And I just realized that I forgot a color. So I'm going to have to go to the other side of my studio and get my brown. Okay, we're going to let that dry for just a second while I get my ink pad. Helps if I got the right one. Okay, so I grabbed my crumb cake, squeezing that lid to get some color up. I'm not going to use it quite yet because now I want to add a little bit of depth to this tree and the bush. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more color and darken it where the shadow should be. Okay, and I can just kind of drop that color on there. Okay, a little bit in here, a little bit right there. And see how that starts to build some color? And see how much easier it is? I am a firm believer in our watercolor paper. Okay, now I'm going to go in and add just a little bit more color in those areas, building that color up. Okay. And once again over here, just building some of that color up, creating that shadow. Okay, so I'm going to clean off my brush. You can use your Stampin' Chamois. It would probably be better than your hand, quite honestly. And I'm going to go into the Bubble Bath again. I want to do these bricks. So just moving it across there very lightly. Let it dry a second. Need some more water. Pick up some more color and create those shadows. Okay, once again, this is going on a lot quicker than last week because that basic white absorbs that ink color, you guys. Okay, so now we're going to do the church doors. So pick up some light color and just wash over our doors. And I am going to do the roof. Do you say roof or do you say roof? People always give me a hard time with my accent. You know, I'm in Illinois, so I'm in that Midwestern accent. Once again, pick up some more color, create those shadows where it would have shadow. Okay. We're going to say the sun's coming from the left side. Okay, so now I want to do that trim around the door, and I want that a little bit darker. I want that to stand out. So we're just going to brush that on. And just by adding more ink there, it's adding that depth to that door. Okay, I want to do a little bit of coloring, extra shadow there. Okay, we need those tree trunk, right? This tree cannot be floating in the air. So I'm just going to wash it in here very quickly. Look at that. Okay, we're going to take our crumb cake again, and we're going to wash some dirt or ground along the bottom. I'm going to clean that out, and now I'm going to go into the green, the Shy Shamrock, pick up some of that, and I want to wash some of that in here also, but you want to be careful that it's not too dark and that you don't go into that crumb cake too much because that will muddy it up and you don't want that look. Okay, I forgot an area on the church here. I like to do this area and I like to do it a little bit darker, and same thing with the front of the roof. Okay, just go like that. Okay, now there's an image in this set that I didn't realize was in it last week. I missed it. That is a little cross. Now, you could make your paper a little bit taller when you do it in the vertical position and put the cross at the top of the steeple. I'm going to add the cross right here on the church over the front of the doors. Just going to go right here, just like that. There we go. And that is it, you guys. So tell me in the comments, do you like the look or the ease of doing this with the watercolor paper over the basic white? Or would you stick with the basic white? Okay, we are going to start layering our pieces on. We are going to fold our cardstock in half. I didn't bring my bone folder over here. Got that here. Let's grab our glue and we're going to start doing our layers. We're going to add our, and either side, you guys, look how, so if you were doing this for a baptism, it was a boy, I would use this side rather than the flowers. But how many of you have to reach for a wedding card and you don't have it? This is, you guys, once again, a great set. Redo up a bunch of cards and you can personalize them when you go to give the card. Okay, we are going to add our layer. And this is the Petunia Pop. And you could offset it if you want. I want mine centered. Okay, and then we are going to add this next. we don't go to very many weddings anymore. So whenever we do, it's like, oh, I need a card. Well, these will be on hand. Okay, and just push that down there. Now, I did have some embellishments that went with it. And this is a retired embellishment. You know, I am always telling you guys, you know what, go into those retired embellishments. But I thought that this, look how pretty this is. So I'm reaching for these larger rhinestones, and we are going to put 3 of them. And I don't have my take your pick tool, and I don't have my paper snips with me here. So we are going to add a few of these on here. So we are doing them the old-fashioned way. Right like this. And then we'll put one up here, creating that triangle. Oh, this one I'm going to put down a little bit. Like that. Okay, then the inside of the card, once again, this is just a basic white. You can personalize it. I'm going to go ahead and just take that little bush, and we're going to add that little bush to the inside. You know, you guys, several of you commented and said, Judy, that card didn't take you any time to make. It was like less than 20 minutes to make that card. Absolutely. You know, you don't have to take a lot of time to make your cards. Use this design over and over again. It's taken me a little bit longer this week because I'm chatting more than I did last week. Okay, let's grab our green. And we're going to grab our crumb cake again, because I am going to make a little bit of a ground. I want to go and ground this bush. Need a little bit more water. There we go. Okay, now we're going to do those shadows in those darker areas, giving that bush a little bit of dimension. There. Wash out our brush because we don't want that color in the brush. We don't want it all muddied up. Just like that. How sweet is that? I think that those little those little touches add so much to your cards, you guys. Okay, let's go ahead. Now, that was basic white. Did you see how that absorbed the ink quicker than my watercolor paper? Okay, come on. I don't think it's empty yet. It's getting there. And I didn't put it in my holder, so it wasn't upside down. But just those sweet little touches there. And even though we didn't use the watercolor paper on the inside, it's still a beautiful card. So there we go. This is this week's card. I'm going to bring up last week's card. So this was the card we did last week. It's got more color on it, a little bit different look with the 2 different colors in the sentiments. A lot more color going on around it. But I want to show you a card that we did in our club this month, and we used Stampin' Blends for this instead. So that's this card. Okay, and we used a different paper. We used the lavender paper, but isn't that just gorgeous, you guys? So that is the one we did in club. This is the one I did last week. And this is the one that we did this week. So I hope this gives you guys some ideas, more ideas on some uses for this stamp set. You can go to my online store to get it. And my article will be on my blog tomorrow. And you'll be able to see both cards and 2 different articles there. So until we meet again, everybody, happy stamping.